Imagine being a young child, playing with your friends, and then suddenly being chased by a horde of creatures. Or you're out late at night planning a romantic meeting with your loved one, and instead you meet a strange apparition that wants to whisk you away. Join me in episode 3 of Darker Side of Light as we peel back the layers on the strange, the unusual, and the supernatural. In this story, we have a character called John, and it's roughly set, as far as I can work out, in about the early 1700s. Now, John was a lead miner from the local area, and he was seeing or dating a widow from the pub or inn somewhere in Mould, a town not too far away from Cilcain. Now, having been drinking late at night after work, around where he lived, he decided that he would go and see the widow, knowing that she would probably be finishing off, closing up the pub. So he was setting off, probably on a trike similar to this. Now, because it was late at night, and yes, he had been drinking, his friends were saying, look, you really need to be careful. Don't go by the short road because of the time, because you'll have to pass the Goblin Well, and that's not a good place to be at this time of night. If you do feel or see anything, close your eyes and begin to pray. Go the long road. But of course he was keen to see the widow, and he took the short route. As he was going along and he was getting close to the Goblin Well, he felt strange. And hearing a noise behind him, he stopped, turned around, and there he saw a female. She was in white, and she was coming towards him. Now, as you can imagine, even though he'd been drinking, he realised that this was not right. But he was transfixed. And this woman had a hood up, covering her face. But he described her, even though he couldn't see her face at the time, as being beautiful. And he was transfixed, and she was sobbing and crying and reaching out to him. And then in this beautiful voice, this almost like melodious voice, she pleaded with him to stay with her. Help her dig underneath the well. And there he would find untold treasures, gold, whatever he wanted. He would be rich. And they could be together. And he found himself moving towards her as she was moving towards him. And then he noticed her voice change. Instead of being pleading, it was commanding. Keep coming forward. You will stay with me. You will be rich. We will be together. You must stay with me. Now, suddenly, his nose started to itch. And he gave a large sneeze. And at the moment of his sneezing, he suddenly came to his senses. And he turned around and he ran back the way he'd come. Taking one look over his shoulder, the woman in white had vanished. So, an odd story, yes, being saved by a sneeze. But as he recounted it to his friends, they did say that it was a goblin princess, and he would have been captured and taken down or into the well, and he would never have come home. Never have been seen again. So, don't knock it if you have an odd sneezing fit, because who knows, it may save your life. Now, I've brought us to this area for my next story, which is set in the early 1700s, and it's recounted by a tale told by a Dr. Edward Williams, and it was about his childhood. Now, seemingly, I mean, who knows whether this was a field, But seemingly he and his friends and siblings were playing in a field outside the town, whilst the menfolk were working in the fields, and close by was a woodland, though obviously this is more overgrown than it would have been at the time. And as they were playing, they saw in the distance near the trees some little people they first described. So, curious children as they were, they ventured forwards. Now, as they got forwards, they soon realised that the little people weren't actually people at all. They were strange, odd creatures, and these creatures saw the children and started to run after them. So the children, in their fear, screamed, took flight, ran forward as fast as they could, and the doctor at the time, as a child, was the youngest and smallest and was getting left behind. As they were getting near the stile, he felt his sister grab hold of him and literally throw him over the stile. And just at that time, these grasping fingers were reaching over to pull him back. Now the children turned and looked at this horde of creatures who were snarling and reaching for them, and screamed at the top of their voice and raised the alarm, obviously, for the men that were close by. And as the men started to come forward, the creatures retreated into the woodland, and when the menfolk tried to search for them, there was no sign, only signs of strange little feet. Now, curious is the fact that this area is not that far from my first episode, where we talked about goblins attacking Rutland. Now, when they were banished, they were pushed further into the hills. This location is in the hills, not that far from Rutland. And as you can see, there are lots of hills, lots of woodland, and probably lots of hidey holes for goblins. Fact or fiction? Who knows? But this story certainly affected the good doctor for the rest of his life. Ancient pathways are always a place I certainly feel should be treated with the utmost respect. So when I am out and about doing my investigations, let's say, and I am treading where people have gone before, I do always like to stop and take in the energy. Now this is a lovely place, but I do hear, which I suppose is obvious, cartwheels, cranking, clunking, shouts obviously encouraging the animals to pull harder. There is also background noise, because obviously what I've just mentioned will be, residual energy. It's the residual energy of people doing the same thing, the same type of energy going through the same motion. So the land absorbs that. But when there's one particular energy that is stronger, interesting clearing here, sadness. Now, sadness is one of the most strongest that is absorbed by the land and is held by the land, and obviously is what keeps, almost like keeps a person trapped, or keeps the energy stuck in one place. That's interesting. Don't know what that is. Large piece of random wood. Now we get closer, they're carvings. How lovely. This looks like it was done quite a while ago, because the wood has split and weathered. Looks like 3 badges, I think. How lovely. And we've got a bench, just a small bench. And to say this isn't a field, there is actually a water trough for animals. How interesting. I do believe, I'm just going to try and perch on this rather mossy little bench here a moment, because obviously there's no building here now, but I do feel there was. Now we are going back a long time here, because I'm getting soldiers. So I don't feel it was a battle, but I do feel this might have been a small, can't really call it a farm, just a small little cottage, small property here on the outskirts of Cilcain. And I'm getting a small group of soldiers, if you can call them soldiers, that came, and the only term I'm getting here is brutalised. So I do feel there was deaths here. 3 children, 2 women and... yes, 3 children, 2 women, 1 older, 1 younger. So I feel it would have been the wife and the wife's mother, the husband, and I feel an oldest son. Yes, I feel that they were horribly killed here, because this land, this area here, I do get a lot of sadness. It's like a mixture, because there was happy times here, they were happy where they lived, and then it was almost a shock of this group of possibly, I think, about a dozen rogue soldiers, I think you can call them, that came here, found this place, didn't get what they want or enough of what they wanted, and well, I've just said what happened. Quite sad, because I almost, as I'm sat here, even though it's a beautiful, peaceful place, it's almost like I just want to cry. A lot of sadness, a lot of I don't so much get anger, because I think it was kind of the shock of what was happening, and obviously reacting. You know, these came out of the trees, the attacks, so you know, everybody was trying to defend everybody else. So there's this shock, and then disbelief, and then pain, and gone. Sad. Interesting. I've just found this sign, and it looks like, I had no idea where we were to start with. I was just following where the energies took me, and it seems the woodland was actually part of, or surrounded, an old corn mill down by the river at the bottom, and it seems the mill was of medieval origins and was working right up to the time of the First World War, and that's when it ceased. So what I just felt, the fact that this area was inhabited around medieval times, can very much tie in with the type of energy that I got, because there was a lot of battles around that time in this area. Interesting. Let's see what else we find. We're now in the centre of Cilcain, and as you can see, it's not very big, but it's very, very old. And there's the very old White Horse Inn, and in front we have the Smithy House that's got dates above the door. I don't want to be pointing the camera too much at it, but the date above the door is 1579. The area of Cilcain has got lots of Iron Age, Bronze Age artifacts that have been found in the area, burial mounds, etc. And there we go. Let's have a see what it says. Okay, let's interrupt. Hilary and Jackie. Okay, so seemingly North Wales Film and Television Trail. Oh, this film celebrates the extraordinary life and world the acclaimed musical genius Jacqueline du Pré and her tragic and a relationship with her sister, and covers her tragic illness. Many scenes in the film were shot in Cilcain. Okay. Based on the book A Genius in the Family. To be honest, I can't say I've heard of it, but maybe you should give it a look. That's interesting. Okay, hadn't seen that. But as I was saying, the earliest recorded accounts of inhabitants in Cilcain are down around early 1200s, and go, very nice. Walkers and bikers welcome, lovely. And we're now going to have a look in the very old church that goes with it. Unfortunately, oh look, moss is literally overgrown. Where the words are 17 or 2, I think that says age 3. How sad. Now, fun fact about this church. So the story goes, in the Basingwork Abbey in Holywell, a few miles away, at the time of the dissolution of all the abbeys, this church got its roof from there. So this actually has a famous roof, which I'm hoping we'll be able to go in and see. Let's have a look. How interesting. Look at all of these. They're not just random in the grass. They are literally the gravestones lining the path around the church. How lovely. Oh, look at this. What a beautiful headstone. And unfortunately, can't really see that. I think it says something about 1800 and something. But how lovely is that? And as you can see, it carries on up there. Let's look inside. We're now in Carewys Church, St Mary's Church, and I've just been speaking to the most delightful of ladies that was here when I came in. Now, as I said coming up, this is the roof from Basingwork Abbey that was taken at the time of the dissolution of the abbeys. How amazing is that? You can see the crosses. at the top. And the amazing sculptures. The angels as we go along, this is just breathtaking. And when you think of the time when this was taken, all those years ago, that it was transported from Holywell all the way. I mean, when I say all the way, I think we're possibly talking 10 miles or so, in fact, to this church. Now, interesting fun fact, that 2 of these angel sculptures, as you can see, there is a slight difference. I think it's that one and that one. So the story goes, there was a rather naughty clergyman at the time who liked his drink and didn't have the money for his tipple at the time. So what did he do? He sold the 2 angels. How much for, I don't know, but he got his quart of beer. And I've just noticed, if you look, can you see there? Fire damage, because there was a fire, I think a little bit up there as well. There was a fire here at some time, and the roof through there, which unfortunately, as the lady said, the door's shut at the other side of the windows there, all that roof got burnt, and there was a choir's gallery underneath the large window there, and all of that got burnt. So it looks like there is still the remains, as you can see. They tried to save fire damage. So this part got slightly singed because I believe all the pews went up as well. As you can see, the beautiful carvings up there as well. Now I have another lovely story of this lamp. Now I'm just trying to zoom in because it is actually high up. As you can see, it's a miner. And now that lamp, or that, you see the black part, is actually carved from coal. Now, as I was told, as I was told that this was actually carved by a lovely gentleman who was actually a prisoner of war. Now, seemingly he was billeted to the local area. I believe, I don't know if he was a submarine, something, but he was captured, brought to the area, and he ended up working in the mines, but he was treated so well. Everybody was fine with him. He was a lovely, lovely gentleman. Obviously, he had been conscripted, he didn't want to fight. And he fell in love with a girl in the area. I think she was called Maud. And he was allowed to marry Maud, and he actually married her in this church. And as a thank you, he created that lamp out of a large piece of coal. What a lovely story. And I believe he settled in the area for a time and then returned home a little while later to be with his own family. But what a beautiful story. So that's St Mary's Church in Cilcain. What a delightful place. And again, when you come to this part of the church, the rear section of the church, look what they've done to all the headstones. I have to say, I've never seen this. They've collected them all. And placed them all together. I think this is something else I'm going to have to look into. I've never seen anything like this. But these are very old, and they actually look like these are quite looked after. It's almost like they've tried to save them. 1859, 1781. $1836. Here we go. 1753. Look at these. 1770, look at that one. That's all that's worn off. I think it says 1759. Very different. And what we've got a lovely sign there. And it says this churchyard is managed for wildlife. Bird feeders and nest boxes have been erected, and a border of flowering shrubs attracts butterflies. What a lot of thought is put into this beautiful little church. Look how that's, so we've got the church almost like on this side, and then this beautiful, very old tower at the side. What a fabulous place.